Welcome to the Script Your Future podcast from the NCPA Foundation. I'm Sonja, the Executive Director of NCPA Foundation, and today I'm excited to be joined by Josuah Tilus. Josuah, thanks so much for taking the time to speak with us today. Where are you joining us from?
Thank you so much, Sonia. I'm coming from Forks, Washington, out in the Pacific Northwest, and just came back from the Cascadia Pharmacy Group's ownership meeting. So coming back supercharged, ready to get back into the action, back in Forks in my store.
Excellent. Well, I know our listeners will be eager to hear your story of becoming a pharmacy owner right out of pharmacy school. But before we dive in, could you tell us a bit about yourself and your background that initially led you to pursue pharmacy?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, so pretty far away, and both of my parents are from Haiti, and so they came to America to give my sister and I a better life. And my mother's a home care nurse, and that's kind of how I got exposed to the pharmacy profession. After showering her for a day, recognized that probably don't want to be a nurse in the future. It's just a little too hands-on for me.
It's a tough
I don't
job.
mind doing that for my immediate family, just
Mhm.
not for everybody. But I was
Yeah.
really fascinated by the medications and seeing, like how does this little pill affect the body, or for better, for worse, and like who's what profession does that? And she said pharmacy, and that was in fifth grade. And ever since then,
Wow.
it was pretty much, yeah, pharmacy. I know a lot of people kind of experiment with a lot of career paths, and I did too in high school, but it was pretty clear pharmacy was the way for me.
That's very, very cool that that started so early for you. So you're
Yeah.
quoted in our 2024 annual report saying that your dream of pharmacy ownership began when you stepped into a pharmacy about 7 years before. What was it about that experience that first sparked your interest in pharmacy ownership?
Yeah. So the pharmacy I went to was Atlantis Pharmacy, and it's in Lake Worth, Florida. It's a subsidy called Atlantis. And I just, ever since I came in, it was awesome that the owner and all the other pharmacists and even the staff knew everybody by name. And so it was really cool that they connected with the community and they really served them well. But I also like the business side, the fact that if um, my boss, so Dr. Damian Simmons, wanted to make a change, he would just talk to a couple of the techs and talk to one of the pharmacists and be implemented that day
Oh,
instead
wow.
of, you know, months or years of red tape to eventually get told no. I just love the nimbleness of of independent community pharmacies specifically. We're like the jet skis versus like the big cruise ships that are like the
Yes,
big
okay.
chains. We can bend and we're more nimble and we can really serve our population better. And so I love the fact that I get to serve patients, but also build a great system. And I found like that duality. The business and the patient care is what I loved. And so I knew I'm like, this is what he's doing, what my boss is doing. That's what I want to do.
That was a great analogy of the difference between the two. I always say that as well. That I feel like independent community pharmacies can be so much more nimble. And I mean, we see that with our work with disaster relief. You know, they're
Mm.
the first ones out there getting stuff running again. So, what inspired you or gave you the confidence to pursue pharmacy ownership directly out of pharmacy school?
Yeah, and actually, when I first thought, okay, ownership, so how do I do that? And most people were like, well, you want to work in a chain for 10 years and,
Right,
gain
right.
some experience and some capital and do all that. It was actually, even thinking about it now, it was really part of what the foundation does. So the foundation provides some scholarships for students to go to the ownership workshop.
Yeah.
And I did that as a first year because I know I'm like, hey, I want to be an owner, want to get this, and I need to find the people who do that. And so that's how I found NCPA and found that scholarship to go to the ownership workshop. And I'm a 2020 start for pharmacy school, so we started in COVID. So that one was actually
Oh,
virtual.
so also the COVID situation affected you.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
also
Okay.
like woven into my story. But it was the last day and they had just a, Q&A session and, they just let, I think it was some McKesson people and their RX ownership team,
Hmm.
and I asked like, hey, I've heard it. I'm a new student in pharmacy school, really want to own a pharmacy. Um, I've been told, hey, it takes like 10 years and all that. And like, hey, what's y'all's perspective? And yeah, a couple were like, I mean, that's usually wise. But a couple of them were like, you can actually own earlier. And there's models and junior partnerships and things to allow access earlier. And I said, and they kind of inspired me to say, hey, if even there's a 1% chance that this can happen right out of school, I'm going to dive in for it and
Okay.
see if it happens. And hey, if I don't, if I don't meet the stars, I'll land on the moon. I'll get someplace great. But they really catapulted me to say like, okay, we can do this right out of school.
That's definitely unusual to go to the ownership workshop so early as a pharmacy student. But how lucky were you to do that? And during
Oh,
COVID, when things are virtual, and have the courage, right, to ask the question of, is this possible? Can I do this?
oh yeah, no, praise God. It's been like, and I didn't even really think about it until now, right? 'Cause that was really, I'd say like that was a seed in my brain. It's like, oh, and I think they saw that and they're like, hey, there's this ambitious young kid. We don't
Yeah.
know where this will go, but hey, if we can help him along in the journey and kind of, you know, light a spark, if you will, and ignite something in him. And they really, and honestly, they really did. And there's also some other people in NCPA, Dr. Ken Tai out in California, who's
Yeah.
I think he's on the board of NCPA as well too. He said like, hey, he's like, I started owning a pharmacy on my second year after graduating, and he's like, my only regret was not doing it right when I got out. I'm like,
Oh,
okay, so it seems
okay. So
like,
yeah, that was probably a really good mentor then for you too.
yeah, I did a rotation with him on my fourth year. I got to see the 986 pharmacy group as well, and they're really innovative, really expanding really quickly. Got to do I think 5 business plans with him, so he
Oh,
really
wow.
helped me build the business acumen of okay, how do I look at a location, analyze the financials, and analyze whether this is a store to buy or not,
Now, I
which
know the
really helped me
ownership
as well.
workshop was several years ago for you, but do you remember some specific aspects of it that were really helpful to you as you were going for ownership?
And honestly, I actually went twice. So
Okay.
I went as a first year, and then knowing that ownership was more imminent my fourth year, I went again. Um, and so I'd say the ownership workshop, I guess for anybody who's thinking about it, first of all, students definitely highly recommend, especially if you're thinking of ownership, because not only does it give you, of course, some of the skills and tools, especially if you don't have like distinct business background. Like I was blessed with an MBA, and even with that, there's still a lot to the business of pharmacy and buying a pharmacy and what the banks are looking for, what the lawyers are looking for, what the team you need to grab and get a hold of. They really provide a really solid foundation for what anybody will need to own a pharmacy. And and then so that's like the main piece and and that's awesome. But also just the networking of getting to meet some, 20 plus store owners, getting to
Oh,
hear their
sure.
experience of ownership, kind of what it's really like to own. And they all say the hardest part about ownership is the ownership of ownership. It's that everything ends with you.
Yep, yep. It's all your
And
responsibility.
yeah, so it's like, hey, if the lights go out or there's a break in, it's yours. You can't just clock in and clock out. It
Mhm.
becomes kind of a child. And their insight and perspective, as well as the perspective of the people around you, because it's the beauty of school. It's that you're not alone in your journey. There's like people, classmates that you get to kind of fight through school together. And so in the same way, the ownership workshop really creates a little class of people that say like, hey, we are going to all kind of fight this beast, ownership together. And I'm still in contact with like 4 or 5 of us that were kind of around my table. We kind of connect and say like, hey, have questions or things, and we kind of text back and forth. And so between the raw teaching the education part of ownership
Yeah.
workshop, I'd say it's A class. I've done every ownership type education besides POLA
Okay.
um, as a student, and by far the ownership workshop had the highest ROI in terms of prepping me for ownership besides my MBA.
Excellent. So, speaking of NCPA, NCPA's ownership workshop, what was your experience like with the student chapters at NCPA and that eventually led to you becoming the Student Leadership Council president?
Yeah, so it's funny, NCPA, so it was a very small chapter at my school when I first came, but I was like, hey, these are the independent people, so these are my people. I need to
Okay.
connect with them. But my after my first year, or at the end of my first year, the current president of that student chapter kind of pulled me aside and said, hey, our entire e-board is P3s, so all of us are going to go into P4 year, so our last year, rotation year. And basically don't have anybody else on the e-board besides you, our P1 liaison. Would you mind taking, like, running for the mantle of president? I was like, hey, this would be awesome. And I think we grew our chapter from like six, a couple of my friends that I pulled, to about 30 in 3 months. So we grew by like
Wow.
500%. And honestly, the running a chapter is like a microcosm of running a business. And so it taught me that like I love business and management, and like I realized there's two kinds of work. There's the work that like it's good work,
Uh-huh.
but it still feels like work. But when I was, building a program or preparing for a speaker or preparing to speak, like I would lose myself in that. And I knew I'm like, like this is a passion. I found a passion of mine through the
Yeah.
NCPA student chapter of I love management and I love people. And what can I do to build a system to make the team more successful? So at the end of the day, it's not, okay, wow, Josuah's so awesome because he built this chapter. It's really like the group of six of us that got us to that point, and seeing where they're all now, like a couple are like in residencies, a couple are like junior partners and about to buy a pharmacy. And so seeing how all of them became successful through, the 1 year that I got to work with them.
Yeah.
Honestly, to me, I knew I'm like, okay, I'm built for management. And so that's actually how I met. So through that process was how I met Carly Traylor. So
Oh, okay.
she was the current like director of student affairs and strategic initiatives at
Yeah.
NCPA. I think she moved to McKesson, but through that experience, I met her and she kind of showed me like, hey, no, hey, what you're doing at the local level is awesome, and I could see your passion for independent community pharmacy. So from there, got invited to like apply to the Student Leadership Council, which I'd still say, and I tell every student to this day, like that was probably I mean, it got me this pharmacy. So in terms of ROI, the highest
Uh-huh.
ROI, even before that, it's probably the highest ROI experience as a student, because really the networking that I got with the 16 other students around the country, really, um,
Yeah.
how to run a bigger operation, um, really catapulted me to really like solidify, like, okay, I'm built for administration, leadership management, and I wouldn't trade those moments for the world. And also um, got me into conferencing. I've been to a decent amount of those. I think my final number from the 4 years in school was about 31, and
Oh
I know
my
at least
gosh, that's so many.
and a third of those are NCPA.
Wow. So yeah,
Yes.
you definitely dove right into all of the different resources that are available to you, especially in terms of networking. I mean, like you said, those connections you make are priceless, and you never know when one door is going to open up to another one.
Oh, yes.
So I have to know though how you managed to grow the student chapter so exponentially. Was it just that no one had ever really like taken the time to ask people to join, or what was the recipe for success there?
Yeah. And I've noticed, I guess, as you kind of work, you find your strengths. And I found at least how I recruit It's less of us, and I'd say probably the highest ROI of how we got to that was our career fair. And usually how people approach career fair is how do we, or not career fair, but the organization fair. So,
Yeah,
the alphabet soup,
yeah.
and all the first year students are like, what is all going on?
Mm,
And I guess the main thing that we focused on, and I had a bigger group. Usually it's one or two, but I wanted five. So one, show presence, even though we were the smallest org.
okay, so you're like,
It's,
it doesn't matter if this is like half our people, but
yes, it's who shows up that matters.
yeah.
And my goal was, hey, our goal isn't to sell us. It's to, we are meant to guide them to their future in
Ooh,
whatever ways that we can do that. So for that may mean 20% of the people that come to our booth, we're actually pointing them to other booths. And that's okay.
okay.
Because
Okay.
the point is not to sell us. The point is to help them to their future. And actually, more people respected that about us
Mm-hmm.
than all the other booths. Because they're like, hey, these guys just care about us.
Yeah.
They just care about us and our future. And even if it's not with them, we had a great conversation with this little NCPA team. And oh, community pharmacy doesn't seem that bad. From those conversations and showing that, and then having very concrete benefits, saying, like, we had programs that they can essentially, we had some promises that they would know or meet an owner by the end of the year. They'd have an experience. They'd have connections to future employers, so a job could be even in the pipeline. And so when we had tangible benefit that we knew the students needed, we also have like community service hours um, at our school too. So we could offer like, hey, you can get 2 hours with us serving the homeless. Um, so with a concrete operation behind us, so people were like, okay, this isn't just, you know, a bunch of smiling faces, but there was substance behind us. We looked active and we cared about them. I've noticed, and even as a hiring manager now,
Mm-hmm.
the best way I motivate my employees is really that. I have a good system around them so they know, like, hey, I feel supported and I care about them. Pretty much got, I think, a third of the first years that year.
Yeah, you were
Just
building
because.
trust and you were building relationships as an honestly an expert relationship builder because that method you're talking about is actually what's recommended also for fundraising because
Exactly.
it's not so much about raising the funds for your organization, it's about showing how much you care about the mission and the work that you're doing. And so whether you're a student that's representing a chapter or you're an owner of a pharmacy, when you are true to those values and the work that you're doing, it's contagious and people want to be part of that. So that's truly a testament to you also just as a person, just having that natural gift. That's incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, no. And it's honestly fun. It's awesome to see people grow in that way. And even now, thinking of like the 30 students and where they're all, and yeah, a lot of them didn't end up in independent community pharmacy, but a lot of them have a respect for it and say, hey, these guys aren't just retail, which is our goal, which is one of our main goals as an NCPA. It's, hey, we're not the big chains. We really are the beautiful hybrid of really like and patient care and the clinical side too.
Yeah. Let's set the scene. Your pharmacy is pretty rural, right?
Mhm.
So my understanding it's the only pharmacy within 50 miles of your community.
Yes, the near other pharmacy is about an hour and 15 minutes away.
Okay. So what drew you to establish a pharmacy there?
Yeah, so it really and even finding that pharmacy was a testament to just like the connections through NCPA. Because I didn't really know about this store at all. Didn't I wasn't looking for rural healthcare. It's just
Okay.
something I just stumbled upon. Um, so as an NCPA SLC member, we get to go to committees, which is we get to be on some of the national committees is to get exposure to kind of what the main operations of NCPA are and kind of where they're going. And the first day, when committees start after they're all assigned. They fly everybody out to DC, and then we meet. As a group, we talk about the different initiatives in the committees, but then we have like dinner afterwards. And so at that dinner, we there was about 20 of us in the group. I was in the Developing Opportunities Committee, and it was honestly awesome. It was like the top 1% of innovators in community pharmacy, kind of all at the same table.
Oh, wow.
And I just remember there was this really tall guy, like kind of sitting across from me. Didn't know him, and we're having fun, like just chatting up. And and I guess a little background, as the SLC president, I told pretty much the entire board and everybody who I knew, Carly too, in terms of like, I want to own right out of school. So if you know anybody who's selling, let me know. Whenever I was asked, like, hey, that's the thing. Even if like I'm like, okay, it seems pretty aggressive as a student to do this, but hey, again, if there's that 1%, I'm gonna do it. And so that really tall guy, you may know Jeff Harrell. I
Yeah,
think, yeah,
current
current,
NCPA board president.
yes, just really looks at me just out of the blue. Again, never met him, and he said, "Hey, I think I have a store for you. Um, I'll help pay your loans. I'll give you a good salary and equity in the business if you can move 3,000 miles away."
Oh my God.
And, you know, deer in headlights. So I'm like, oh, like, okay, where? I'm like, tell me more. Where is it? And I'm kind of like, is this real? He's like, yeah, no, look up Forks and then we'll talk tomorrow. And so kind of afterwards, he even like told me about, just being an owner and kind of the opportunities that you can get
Yeah.
as an owner. But that night, we got home at around 11, so 11 to midnight, I'm like looking up Forks. I'm like, okay, this is besides Twilight. Um,
Sure.
okay, yeah, what's the demographic like? And like, oh, this is actually a really cool opportunity. Because I know when you're so rural, and we talked about it the next day, he's like, when you're so rural, insurance companies play nicer with you
Mm,
because
good point.
if you essentially say no to their plan, they essentially lose access to that region. And we serve three tribes as well, like the pharmacy does. So it's
Okay.
like the Makah tribe, the Kuliu, and the Ho tribe. And so the tribes you need to play nice with as well as
Uh-huh.
that. And and so from there, I was like, okay, I need to see it. I'm a Florida guy. So
Right, right.
if I'm
You're
gonna move
talking Washington State versus Florida. That's so different geography wise.
and it's funny because I mean I'd say I'm a pretty simple guy, so all I need is a church, a gym, a bed and a desk, and I could pretty much live anywhere.
Okay.
But the only thing I ask, I'm like, I just don't want Montana snow. Like I don't want to to have to shovel snow for 20 minutes before I can like get to work.
Oh
And he said,
man.
well, so good news, there's no snow. There's just like 130 inches of rain a year. I'm like,
Right. There's so much rain.
I'm like, I think I can deal with rain.
But Florida
Um,
has rain too, doesn't it? So I guess it's comparable.
yes, it's more like Forks, it's like a constant mist that
Okay.
doesn't end for several months. Florida's like a downpour at 2 o'clock
Okay.
for
Okay.
for the 4 months of spring. So it's really like that muggy, humid
Mm,
versus like here it's dry, but
but
it's
misty.
dry but wet, if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah,
Just
that
not
makes
humid. And yeah, so he flew me out there and during December, so I made sure I'm like, I want this during the more undesirable time.
That's
Where
smart. That's just like what they say about, whenever you go buy a house, make sure it's on a really crappy day so you can see if there's leaks or you can see if there's other issues that they're not disclosing.
exactly. The old owners at the time, so the owners at the time, so Chuck and Pura really just showed me the beauty of Forks, showed me the lay of the land, and showed me kind of, hey, these are the really cool opportunities that you can do here. The beauty of Forks, it's that there's only a few providers in the area, so they're all very close. I've already had dinner with a couple PAs.
Okay.
And so they usually have their phone number, really strong collaboration. And so that the so I knew like the practice models, all the innovative practice models that they talk about, collaborative practices, things that I learned through NCPA, point of care testing, leaning into long-term care at home, all of that was ripe because the pharmacy was doing well enough to really just run on script filling and vaccines. So it's a fertile soil for a lot of innovation. Um, that along with being in the so as Jeff being my partner in this pharmacy gives me access to the Cascadia Pharmacy Group, which is a group of about, I think we're just over 40 stores now. And
Oh, that's
really,
wonderful.
besides the innovative practice, it's also the mentorship. Because I am a new grad, 25, like I bought a store at 24. Um, there is a lot of life and experience that I don't have. And so even if I could just buy a store on my own in Florida, maybe get a mentorship for a couple months from the old owner, um, the sheer volume of resources and support that Cascadia Pharmacy Group has is really second to none and made it almost a no-brainer when I thought about the financial support that I'm getting for this purchase, the opportunities I could have as a manager to really launch myself into a clinical space, but also really take care of this community in a unique way that's never seen before. In the support from Cascadia Pharmacy Group made it a no-brainer to go for this store. And it's not that I didn't have opportunities in Florida. I think I had about 5 opportunities to buy in Florida.
Okay.
But I moved out and yeah. But when I looked at this opportunity in Washington State, it was almost a no-brainer. It's like this, because I thought about it, prayed about it, and pretty much the door, everything was leading in that direction. And
Mhm.
it became a why not at this point. And at that
Okay.
point, I'm like, okay,
Yeah, I
get
think
her.
there's a lot to be said for following your intuition, right?
Mhm,
I think and this is just my personal superstition, but I feel like our bodies tell us when things are right or wrong, right? We get that feeling of inspiration and hope and drive, or we get that feeling of dread and fear and
mhm.
caution. And I think following that is also probably pretty wise because 9 times out of 10 it works out as it has for you.
Yeah, yeah. I've noticed like fear is a smokescreen. It's something that like it keeps us from where we need to go, um and when we lean into it, when we kind of force ourselves to like walk through that smoke screen, you
Mhm.
realize like, well, one, it's not that bad, but two, you really get to you find the rewards on the other side of that smoke screen. And for me, it was a little like, huh, I guess we're gonna move to some place I never know with no connections besides well the current owners. But hey, why not dive into a challenge, make some new friends, um, kind of be uncomfortable, and from there I know I'll grow a lot, and this community will be served better by it.
So talking about, serving that community and what it means to you, what unique responsibilities do you feel now towards this place, especially as a pharmacy owner?
Yeah. So, and it kind of goes with I remember the first day like that I bought it. So like August 30th, and I just remember it felt like getting sit on by an elephant. The slow weight of
Oh,
these,
no.
yeah, these lives, like, and of
Yeah.
course, the 3,300 plus lives that live in Forks directly rely on the services that I'm giving. Because if you have a sick kid, you don't really want to travel an hour and a half. Um, so
Right.
what we get to do
Exactly.
here, really be a point of access for them, is huge. But not only that, and I'd say what's more poignant to me as a manager is I have, 10 to 15 lives of the staff that I have.
Yeah.
And, and like like the business directly funds their life. And business decisions that we make for better or for worse that they're tied to. Of course, they don't have as much risk, but if I make a really poor financial decision, like they can be and sometimes are affected either directly by the patient backlash or indirectly by like, oh, maybe less of a bonus this year. Um, so, and I was taught really early that my first customer is or the first patient is the employee
Okay.
because I can only serve so many people. Um,
Yeah,
but if I take care of my staff, they will take better care of the people they serve.
that is
And
great
so,
advice.
yeah. And so as I think as a manager, like, and I tell myself, I'm unusually HR focused because I want to make sure that every person feels valued, supported, that we're building them as individuals, but at the same time meeting our goals as a company on the back. I'd say like, and the reason why people, and for me, why people don't like chains, it's not because like, and it is efficient system. Like, don't get me wrong, like they're quick with what they do, but they build their success on like on the exploiting their staff. And I feel like a great company should use the dreams, the strengths of their staff, and build a system that then becomes successful because of those. So those people feel like, hey, they come to work energized, energized, enthusiastic. It's a motivation that I can't even build in them. It comes from them because they know, like, hey, I'm here not just to fill scripts, not just to type things, not just to check things, but I'm here because this is actually the best place I need to be right now for my future. And this company is sold out on helping me get there and whatever that looks like for me. And so I spend a lot of time and my manager spend a lot of time making sure, hey, everybody that we're helping build our employees personally and professionally so that if they're here for 5 months or 50 years, that they got better as individuals because of their time here.
Well, you give me hope for the future. How do you envision your pharmacy evolving over the next 5 years?
Yeah, so it's such a in Forks, so for this pharmacy, it really is a matter of when. Because all the um, advanced payment models, all those like clinical services, point of care testing, maybe even expanding into primary care, it's all ripe here.
Mm,
Because there's a primary care issue, because there's not enough pr primary care providers in the area. The shortage is very poignant here that most Forks patients are seen by doctors in Port Angeles and not here. So there's a gap.
okay.
And we're working with the hospital right now to see, hey, how can we achieve this gap? Maybe it's, hey, we're doing a lot of point of care testing and a lot of the baseline, like the easy stuff, kind of. And so to allow them to take more of those complex patients, maybe it's helping with
Right.
refills, maybe it's building an AmCare clinic or just building a clinic in itself. There's a lot of avenues that that I can see us go into, especially with our partnership with the tribe as well, doing a lot of more long-term care at home. And so for me, it's especially as an art, I'm like, oh, there's so many cool things that I could do.
Yeah, you're like a
I
kid in a
probably should
candy
sleep.
store. Like, where do I start?
Yes. But I know at least leaning into that, like at least for immediate, it's gonna start with the flu point of care testing. Because
Okay.
again, it is a small town, so we want to play nice with the hospital and the urgent care, make sure we're not taking away from their business, but really augmenting them and supporting them.
Yeah,
And
give
so we
them
feel
time to focus on the bigger stuff.
exactly. And that's why we're that's why we're still formulating exactly what that looks like. But I think we can all, like in the town, we all agree that in order to keep a bigger system from trying to come in and meet that need, if we can
Mhm.
meet that need together,
Yeah,
through various levels of
collaborating and
partnership.
partnering, which you seem like to be an expert at. So I know you'll for
But
sure do great at that, navigating those relationships. Well, Joshua, thank you so much for joining us today. How can listeners connect with you if they're interested in learning more about your journey?
oh yeah. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and maybe I can send those to you, Sonja, and you can
Yeah, that'd
put
be
it in the
great.
show notes. Hey, connect, especially if you're a student and you're listening to the podcast and you're saying like, hey, I kind of want to do ownership too, and like how does that work? And feel free to send a message. Free to send a message if you love community pharmacy and you're passionate about that too. Feel free to connect with me.
Terrific. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you, Sonja. Hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too.